Hello everyone, welcome to my ICT Hub. This is John, your ICT tutor, making ICT concepts easier. Today I'll be working on the spreadsheet aspects of the February March 2023 paper 3-1 of the IGCSE ICT. Alright, if you're ready, let's get in. Alright, here we are. We have the Cambridge IGCSE, that's Information and Communication Technology paper 231 February March 2023. I made videos for that of 2024. You can go through it to see how I solved them. I'll be dropping the question paper and the source files, the link to the source files in the description below, so that when you have to practice them, not if you have to practice them. All right, now this paper has two aspects. We have the spreadsheet and we have the website authoring. Also have a link to the website authoring in the description below. So let's dive into the spreadsheets. Now here we have a question for spreadsheet. Let's start the question. You have been supplied with the following source files. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 source files. Let's check it up here. All right, here we also have the 5 source files complete. Task 1, as evidence document says, create a new word process document. Make sure your name, center number, and candidate number will appear on every page of this document. All right, I make use of Microsoft Office 2021. And creating a Word document for the evidence where you would be taking some screenshots and placing for your graders to know. So for the header, I like mine to always be right aligned. So you just double click above the margin and I can access the header. I align to the right. Okay, that's where my cursor is there. Now let me insert my name, center number, and candidate number, something like that. When you're done, you could just double click back or come to this where you have the header and the footer and close this, and you're back on the document. Now let's see what we have to save it as. Save the document in your work area as M23 evidence. Let me copy this, followed by your center number underscore candidate number. For example, we have this. Okay, now let's go. We are going to have, let me save as. We just browse. It's still going to be in the same folder. Sorry. Okay, this is where I am. I'm going to save it as that underscore my center number underscore candidate number. All right, I may save it as a Word document. Okay, now that has been saved. I want to close this. Okay, let's get back to the question. You will use this as evidence documents during the examination. Exactly. All right, now we've known that. Let's move on to the second task. Task 2 is the spreadsheets. Now this is where we are really coming to. The Tawara Cricket Club records on a Tawara Cricket Club records on a spreadsheet the number of runs scored by each player in each match that they played. All right, so they have a spreadsheet that records details about their cricket club games. Now we are open and examine the file m23batting.csv in your spreadsheet software. All right, before we start the editing, let's open that file. So we go to here we have batting.csv. Get that opened. All right, now that file. I'm also using Microsoft Excel 2021 version. All right, here I have this. Let's see what my question says. I'm to do delete row 2. Insert a new row at the top of the spreadsheet. Okay, let's go there. We have to delete row 2. Okay, to delete that, you just click on the row header, right click from there and delete, or better still, you click on the row header, can come to your cells and then delete the cell, delete the selected row, which is what we want to do. So I delete the selected row and that is taken out. All right, let's go back to the question. Insert a new row at the top of the spreadsheet. So right at the top of the spreadsheet, we need a new row. So I'm going to highlight again from the row header, and these are the rows, these are the columns. The vertical ones are the columns with alphabets, while the ones with numbers are the rows. So I want to insert a row above this. Okay, a quick way to do that is just right click there and you can insert a row above it. That will be done. Or let me undo it. Or you could click there, still come back to your cell section. You want to insert a row, insert sheet rows. Okay, if I click there, it also does the same thing. So whichever one works fast for you, making the concept easier, just get your row inserted. All right, now once we've done that, what are we to do? Merge cells A1 to V1 and place the text Tawara Cricket Club. Okay, Tawara Cricket Club, let me copy that, in the merged cell. Okay, merge cell A1 to V1. Let's merge cell A1 to V1. Okay, we have A1. I want to highlight. I use my mouse, click and drag down to V1. I'm going to be curious. TUV. Okay, this here to V1. And you want to merge, we come down to this group. If you're under the alignment, you have the merge and center. I'm going to just click that. Now let's take a look at what we have to do after merging that. Now you have to place this text in the merge cell. Now I'm going to paste that right there. Oh, sorry. No. I want to paste, not to close it. Microsoft Excel. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, now I was trying to paste after merging, so I need to click on the formula bar. There we have the document. And it's in. The text is in there. Now also merge cell A2 to V2. I used my mouse initially. Now let me use my keyboard. Here I use my arrow keys. This is A2. Hold down the shift on your keyboard and then you can highlight, down to V2. And once again we want to merge and center that. Alright, now that is done. Place in the head and the footer, right aligned, the text, spreadsheet edited by, followed by a space, your name, center number, and candidate number. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. Let's go to access the header and the footer. I always like a quick one. Let's just go through page layout view. Here, once you click on the page layout view, you come to your view and you select the page layout view. You can easily access the headers, which is the left, the right, the center and the right, or you come down to the footer below the page where you can also access the footer, the right, center, and the left. But now this question says we should place, let me confirm that, place in the footer right aligned. Okay, so I have it here. I'm going to paste that text there, so followed by a space, then my center number, and candidate number there. Let's take a look at that, followed by space, or your name, center number, candidate number. I missed out my name, so I'm going to go back and just type my name. Okay, then the center number and candidate number. Save this as a spreadsheet with a file name M23 cricket underscore center number, candidate number. For example, we have this. Okay, now let's go back to save it. Now when you are done here, you want to return back to your normal view. So you could either go through your view and just click on normal, or you come down here to where you have the view options and you click on your normal. Whichever way, it's back to your normal view. Now let's save it. Go to your save as, browse, and the file name there, followed by, there's an underscore, followed by, let me confirm that, again, center number and candidate number. Okay, so we are going to have center number, then candidate number, something like that. It shouldn't be a CSV file, it should be an Excel file, and save it that way. Alright, and once that is done, let's move on. Okay, we don't have an evidence document here. Format the spreadsheet to look like this. Okay, now we have all of that and we want to format the spreadsheet to look like this, to have a header. Alright, we can see this is meshed. We have a white and deep gray. Here we have a light gray with black font. Let's take a look at if we are giving the font sizes. Format rule 1 to have 36 point sans serif, that's font without edges, while text on a dark gray, white text, I beg your pardon, on a dark gray background. Okay, let's go there. Font size for this should be 36. Okay, white text. Let me first change the background to dark gray, and then the font color to white. Okay, that's the first one. Second one says have 18 points sans serif again. I forgot the sans serif. Black text on light gray background. Actually, the text right now is a sans serif, but I might want us to change to Arial. Just give me some Arial. Okay, fine. Come down to this also, make it sans serif font. Let's go with Arial. 18 points. Okay, should have a black but a light gray background instead. Okay, something like this. Okay. Yes, 18 points, light gray background, and that is formatted. But other things now, let's take a look at. The other things that is usually checked in formatting aspects is we want to see if you take note of the alignments. If you have a vertical and horizontal alignments where the size of the rows, and that's the height of the rows, and the width of the columns where necessary. So take a look at this now. If you look at, let's start with the rows. The height of these rows are determined by the contents here, while the height of this row is determined by this text. So we want to look at this, especially this one, which is wrapped in 4 lines. So let's go back. Let's click on this row, and I want to turn on the wrap text. So you're going to be wrapping the text. This is the wrap text function. Click on that, and you can see it has enlarged it because obviously one of the fonts. Okay, here we are going to make it center aligned. All right, now it's in 4 lines. Let's check. Here's 4 lines. Then we have average here, also center aligned. I'm just going to highlight everything and make it horizontally vertical aligned to the center, while the vertical alignment, if you take a look at it, is also to the center. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, which is make it the vertical alignment to the center. Okay, and let's take a look at that. Good, that's what we have. Also, I'm just going to highlight everything. Double click. All right. Now, before I move on, if you take a look at this row here, that's row S, it has a very small width, so you want to reduce the width down there. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. We have number of rows played, yes, number of. We have the average score. Then taking a close look at it, it's also bold. Now for the text here on this column, they are all aligned to the right. So I'm going to go to the text now. Haven't done this. Make it bold. I'm going to highlight all of this. Align it to the right. Okay. Let's still check. All right. The width is determined by the longest text. So I'm going to just bring this backwards. Okay. Yes. Also, now let's also check on the contents of the table are all aligned to the center. But taking a look at this, let me zoom down a little bit. Zoom out. You see this is not aligned to the center, so I'm going to highlight every one of it. And okay, there we go. We're going to align that to the center. Okay, horizontally to the center. Let's check it out. Here I think, yes, good. Just the way it should be. All right, looks exactly like it. Yeah, so the formats match what we want. But if you also take a closer look before I leave, it looks as if though this is bold. Let's do, just to be on the safe side, I'm just going to make this bold. Okay, the size is still maintained. All right. Then That's it. All right, let's quickly move on for the format. Then we are done from the formatting. Now, it's very important that you get this format right. You can see that we have 10 marks here. So there are a number of things that will be looked out for when formatting. There are two things to start with. You are given this font size, the font type, then also the background color and the text color. So you should take note of that. Now, the other things that are not mentioned are expected. You are expected to be able to notice them on your own and try to ensure that the look of this table is exactly like what you have. Things like I mentioned, the height and the width of the columns, the height of the rows, the alignment of the text. Here is aligned to the right. This is aligned vertically to the middle and horizontally to the center. Then also take note of where you have text wraps. Where there's a text wrap, please ensure that you get that right. Let's take, okay, now here, this is, this should look like this, yes. Yeah, we have not out. So please take note of the text wraps, where you have a text wrap, and possibly in some years you see some of the height of this rows might be half, depending on what the look of the table is. So take note of all of this content when formatting your table. All right, let's move on to the next question. Now, place in cell U4 a function, not a formula now, a function to count. Now, we know the function that does the counting is the count function, but it has other different types of counts, which we will look at as we begin this now. But what is this to count? Count the number of matches played by this player. Replicates this formula for each player. Okay, let's go back to the table. Here we have U4. Now, to know the number of matches, here we have match 1 to 3. So, more like what we want to count. We want to count how many of these cells are not blank. It's going to be counting the cells that are not blank. And if you use just the count function, that only counts cells. So we want to count the ones that are not blank. So let's go down to the function. Sorry, we go to the formula. We call up the formula. Let me just type count. All right, now we have different types of counts. So what you do is you could read from it, select them and read which one will give you exactly what you want. We have count here says count the number of cells in a range that contains numbers. Okay, yes, this is dealing with numbers. So if I count, use the count function, it would actually give me what I want. This is a range of cells that contains numbers. In a situation where you might want to count the range of cells that don't have numbers, possibly text or something else, you could make use of another way. Here we have count the number of cells in a range that are not empty. So now this, irrespective of whether it's a number or it's a text, it will count the cells that are not empty. But in this situation, we are dealing with numbers, so we just go with the count function. We say, okay, now what's the range we want to count from? I'm going to be counting from this. So I highlight down to the last match here. Okay, now before we leave, you can see that's counted. We have 9 cells that matches we have played. Click on your OK button and you have 9 there. Now take note, all the contents are aligned to the center. So let me still highlight this and align it to the center like all the other values. Okay, now haven't done that. Question says replicate this formula for each player. So to replicate this formula, you use the fill handle. The fill handle is located at the bottom right corner of the cell. When you click on a cell, you see this little box here. Just click on exactly on that box, then you drag down. When you use the fill handle, it replicates the formula easily for every other column in a relative manner. Okay, so we have that there. Let's just confirm. Here we have, if you double click on this, so this is counting this formula. Let me come down and you can see. So it's actually working relative to every row to give the number of cells that have content or a number in it. Here we have 3. Okay, let's just check. Here we have just 2. We have 1 here. Okay, yes, this is only 1. So it's correct. It's giving us what we wanted. The next one says, place in cell B33 and B34. Let's quickly locate that. So I have B33. Now this is overlapping. I have to expand this. Okay, here I have B33 and B34. What are we to do? in B33, functions to display the highest and lowest scores for this match. Replicate this formula for all other matches. So in match 1, we want to know the highest score and also the lowest score. So to know the highest score, the function you will be using is the max, which counts the highest. So if I click on this, I go to my formulas. A quick way you could get that also is from, you have the editing here, you come to your AutoSum, you have average, you have count, you have max and mean, but I want to show you because there could be other formulas which you would actually need to be able to generate. So it's good you know how to use the main formula function. So here I want to use the max for the highest. So if I just type my max, it's going to bring up my max. Click on OK. Now what is the range? You're going to highlight from this. Now we are going down to the last. Okay. And you click on, it already has a highest value here. Then for the minimum, okay, we also go call up the minimum this time. You type your minimum. Oh, sorry. I was supposed to type minimum. It's my enter key. Okay, now that's the mean. Click on OK. Then let's highlight down to the last layer. Click on OK. So the minimum is 0, maximum is -7. Alright, if you look at it from the formula bar, you can see the minimum is applied. If you click here, we have the maximum applied. And now you have to replicate this formula across all matches. Highlight both cells. Once again, use your fill handle and just drag it across so you get to this match. And that is done. Let me also place this aligned to the center like every other cell. Now let's go back to a question that is done. We come to question 5. Place a replicable formula in cell V4 to calculate the average score for this player rounded to 1 decimal place. Okay, now there are two things we're going to be doing. We're going to calculate an average score. Then we are also going to round it to 1 decimal place. Now this is the formula for the average score, which we would apply. It says the total runs scored. Total runs scored here is going to be calculating the sum of all this. We have to calculate the sum of this. That's our total runs scored. Then the number of matches played, that has already been done. We can see we have number of matches played. We already have that. And lastly, minus not out. And we also have not out here. So basically what we want to do is we want to calculate the total for all these matches, total runs, which is the function we are going to be using is the sum. So let's start out to get that expression, average score. Remember, to write an equation, you always start with your equals to sign. So I'm going to start with my equals to sign, and I'm going to call up the sum function. I want to sum. Okay. Click on my sum. Now sum of what? Sum of all this. Okay, stop at the last match there. That gives me my sum. But I'm not going to stop there. The other expression says I'm going to do the sum. Let's take a look at that again. Total divided by the number of matches played minus not out. So there's going to be slash for my division sign. I'm going to open a bracket there. Number of matches played is on this cell. So if I click on this to pick that, now minus the cell number out, and we close that. I want that in bracket because I want this to be solved first before coming to this. Although ideally, looking at this, because with this division sign, if you don't put it in bracket, this has a higher priority following the PEMDAS law. That is the order of arithmetic operation, the parentheses, the exponentiation, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So division obviously comes higher first in that order. So if I don't use this parenthesis, it's going to divide this first before subtracting with this, and that's not what we want. We want this two to carry out the arithmetic operation before dividing with this. So now once you have to show that, now I'm gonna hit my enter key to see, okay, now I have a value, but it also says we should round it to 1 decimal place. Now to use the round function, it's gonna be, let's say the round function, okay, I'm gonna come behind this, I'm gonna start with my round function. That's what we use to carry out, to round up a number to a number of decimal place. We use a round function. Now the round for all of this expression which you have here, rounded to 1 decimal place, that's going to be comma and the 1 decimal place to give me that. Now let me try and rewrite something here. If you want to round a value, let's assume I have my formula. Okay, because I wanted to show you how to use the round function. Now the round function, if you click on it, it says what is the number you want to round. Now in this situation, it was the expression we had here that we were rounding. That's why I left the whole expression in there. For me now, if I'm going to round this, I'm going to say, okay, this is going to be my number where the cell is, and what is round to how many digits. So I'm rounding to 1 decimal place, and you can see that 82.1. So that is why you have in the round function, it first the argument says which number are you rounding, comma, then the number of decimal place. And that is why if you see here, we have the number this expression is going to solve for the number which we want to round. Then a comma that separates it, and then 1 represents the number of decimal place that is going to round to. So let me take this out, having understood that. Then we can take back the question. Edit this formula to make sure that the cell contents are not displayed if this player has played fewer than 5 matches. Now this expression is getting it's getting wider. This expression is getting wider because they are kind of encapsulating more and more things into one expression. That's one of the good things, or the very powerful usefulness of this Microsoft Excel, the spreadsheet. It can actually have many expressions or many arguments put together into one particular cell, and it will carry it out. Now to enter a formula that makes sure that the cell contents are not displayed if this player has played fewer than 5 matches. Now let's take a look. How do we know the number of matches? We have number of matches here played. So the condition says if what is in this cell is less than 5, it should not display anything. Let's take a look at it again. It says edit this formula to make sure that the cell contents are not displayed. So we don't want the cell content to be displayed. Now how do you do that? We are going to be writing an if statement, a conditional if statement. Now let me write it here before I encapsulate it into this. I'm going to start the if. Okay. All right, my if statement says, what is the logical test? Is if number of matches played here is less than 5. Okay, then what should be done? If it is true, then it should not display anything. I want it blank. You can't just leave this blank. Rather, what you're going to do is you put 2 quotation marks to represent there's nothing in between. Remember, if you're going to type in a text value would always be in between this quotation marks. But in this situation, because there's nothing in between them, it's going to be blank. And if it is not, then what do you want for the false? So if it is true that the expression here, or the logical test, says it's less than 5, then it's not going to display anything. But if it is false, that means if it is 5 or greater than 5, what should it do? Then I want it to display what is in this cell here. So now let's take a look at that. If you click on OK, it's going to display this because looking at it here, the number of matches played is greater than 5. But now how do I bring this expression into this? Now in this situation, my arguments here, if U4 is less than 5, it should display nothing. And instead of V4, I'm going to bring the whole argument here, or the whole expression here, to replace V4. So now to write that together, let me bring in the if statement. Let me copy this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to bring it back there. I have to replace V4. I'm going to have that expression. Okay. And that is done. But now I don't want this here. I actually need that expression back here. I just did this to explain so you could understand what needs to be done. So I'm going to copy this from here and I'm going to place it back here. And it says if U4 is less than 5, that is the number of match split is less than 5, it should display blank. If not, it should carry out this expression, round the sum of this average to 1 decimal place. So once that is done, then I can hit my enter key and I have that. Let me take this out because I no longer need that. Now I'm to replicate this formula for all the players. Now let's replicate and see in a situation where we have less than 5. Okay, somewhere here. Let's see. Okay, it's blank, so it worked. So once again, you use the fill handle and we drag it down for all players. Okay, some players actually like 1 here. You can see we have there's nothing calculated, it's not displayed. So that's work. So when you want to create a blank cell, a blank response when writing an if statement, all you need is to add your 2 quotation marks, which represents a blank in between. Because if I actually needed a text to be displayed, if I wanted a text to be displayed instead, I would have typed something in between this text. Let me give you a good example. If I type the letter A, for example, that if it is true, it should show me the letter A. Let's see if A will be displayed there. Can you see? A is displayed there, but I don't want that. That was just an explanation. So once I leave this blank, then it's going to have a blank space instead. So when it checks the condition, the logical test checks for this and gives either this for true and this expression for false. Now let's go back to our question. It says save your spreadsheet and print your spreadsheet showing the formula. Okay, now how do we show formula? I think we're done. To show the formula, you're going to go to your formula, still in your formula bar. Now this tool here is the show formula. The shortcut there is control and that's key. So if I click on this, it's going to show the whole expression with my formulas. So you can see here we don't have formulas, but here we have the formulas displayed. I want to double click on this to ensure that all my formulas are fully displayed. Okay, we have the same here. Now how are we printing? So save your spreadsheet. Now make sure the row and column headers are displayed when printing. Then the grid lines are displayed. The page orientation, I beg your pardon, is landscape, and the contents of all cells are fully visible and can be easily read. All right, first let's change my page layout to the orientation to landscape. I haven't done that. The formula, if you go to your data, still on your page layout, here we have under this option, that's the sheet option, you can see we have the grid lines. The statement says grid lines should be visible when printing. So if I want that, I'm going to turn this on. You wouldn't see it here, but when printing it will be visible. Then also we want the headers to be visible when printing. This is what the headers are. You can see if I turn it off, it will not be visible here. If I turn it on here in the view, it's visible. But I want it to also be visible in the printout, so I can turn it on here and it will be visible. Let's take a look at it. If I go to my print preview, I go to my file, click on my print, you can see the headers are visible. And also all my equations should be visible. Right, yes, we can see them, they are visible. At the end of the day, it's going to take us like 6 pages for everything to be visible. It's okay. When it comes to printing of your formulas, please you try and ensure that everything is visible. Sometimes some formulas might be so long and will require you to print quite a number of pages. So if we are done with this, it says grid lines also. You can see now the grid lines are visible because we turned on the grid lines. So the grid lines will only be visible up to the point where a data is located. Wherever a data is not located, the grid lines will not be visible. So grid lines are only visible where we can have a data, and that's what that action will do for you. Then the orientation is landscape. All contents are fully visible. So let's save that in PDF to see what that will look like. I'm going to print it out in PDF. Okay, let me save it in my text. Here I have, I'm going to call that printout 1. Okay, let's print it out. Let's see what it will look like. Here I have my printout 1. Good. So I can see my header, my column header and row headers are visible. We have every content visible, aligned to the right. Then here we can see that my formulas are fully visible. It can easily be read. Yes, we still have the formulas here. Now let's move on to see. Okay, here we have the count formula. We have the if, the condition, the round. All right, and that is all fully visible. Okay, and once you're done, you can print out that. You can also see the footer, spreadsheet edited by space, the name, center number, and candidate number. All right, now let's go back to the question. Once we are done with that, it says sort all the data for the players in descending order of their average score. Okay, descending order of their average score. So let's go back, sorry. To do that, I have to show my values back. So go back to the data formula, sorry. Turn off this function show formula. When you click it, it turns that off. Okay. My table is not distorted, it's still intact. Oh, no, but for this average score, it should be in 2 lines. Yes, okay. So that's what it looked like because it was wrapped. Yes, this is, okay, now this is no longer in 4. Just bring this closer. Yes, this is what it was. Exactly. Yes, ensure. Okay, we all have everything intact. Now we want to print this. It says let's sort. So to sort this, we are to only sort the content of this table just for the players. It says in descending order of the average score. So you highlight just because we don't want to sort with the title. We just only need this information to be sorted just for the players. So you leave out this highest and minimum. And let's go to the sort. If you click on your data, you can have, this is A to Z, but this, if you use this, it's not specific on which field. And since the question is specific on the field, it should be sort. You should sort by the average data in descending order. You click on your sort here. Now you come to check this box that says, because if you click without checking that box, you're going to be seeing columns A, B, C, but I want it to be specific. So I click on this that says my data has headers. Now you can see immediately I clicked on this, the selection left out the headers, and you can now see the headers here. Now I'm sorting by average score. In descending order is going to be from the largest to the smallest, descending order. And normally in the arrangement, ascending always comes first before descending. So even if you are confused, just remember that ascending will always come first, then the descending will be the next one in that order. So now we pick on that to rearrange. When you click on that, okay, that has been sorted. Now let's check the question. Sorry. Now let me close this so we don't have to keep opening this. Now when we sort in descending order of the average score, those players who do not have an average score displayed must be at the bottom of the list. Okay, now there's a condition. You can see here we have these players should be at the bottom of the list, not at the top. Well, there are 2 ways you could go about this. The first one is, once you've carried out the sort, you can go ahead and just highlight these players from the row header. I can cut it out and paste it below the table. Come in here and I want to paste it there. Oh, sorry. I'll rather right click and insert the cut cells. Right click on the row header, and that way you can see it's placed below the arrangement. Now that's one way to do it. Another way you could also do it, let me undo this, is to still go back to my sort. I have that in data. Oh, sorry, no. The highlights has dropped this. I want to highlight with the title again. Okay, now let's go back to the sort. I click on this, sorting by average score. But this time I'm going to do in ascending order. That's from smallest to largest. And you will see it will drop them below. Now once it drops these players below, I can go back again and resort, excluding them this time. Now once they are dropped there, I can exclude them and sort again, and this time largest to smallest, and you will see that will be done. All right, and that solves it. So whichever way works fast, either you cut and you paste it, insert it below, or you want to resort it this way, whichever way they are. That way we get that done. Now let's continue the question. Say save your spreadsheet with the file name. Okay, I have this file name followed by center number, candidate number. For example, this. I think we did that at the beginning, but let me just copy it again. Let's save the spreadsheet now. Save as. Browse. Okay, we hadn't saved that actually. Save. Now we have a center number and followed by the candidate number. All right, and I saved that. I haven't saved that. Print your spreadsheets showing the values only. Now, what are the conditions for the values? The row and column headers are not displayed. Let's start doing that one after the other. You go back to your page layout. This time you are turning off the headers. You don't want it to be displayed in the printing. Second says the grid lines are not displayed. Okay, I'm going to turn this off also. I don't want it in the printing. And the page orientation is still landscape. And then the contents of all cells are fully visible and can be easily read. Okay, so let's see our print preview. I haven't done that. Let's go to our print. Okay. You might want to force that in, but I don't usually advise so that it can easily be read. Sometimes if you change your view, go to your print layout, you might want to say you want to force this to come in there. But if you do that in the printout, it's going to be very small. It's not going to be easily read, and that's why that condition was placed there, that I should make sure it can easily be read. Oh, pardon. Okay, make sure that it can easily be read. So we keep it with the way the system has selected the arrangements for the paging, and let's print it out. So we go to print. All right, all contents are fully visible and can easily be read. Okay, so we can print it out that way. I call that print out, sorry, 2. Okay, now let's save it. And let's go and check it out. Print out 2. And okay, that's what it's going to look like. All the values are fully visible. Still have your footer. Yes, we have the highest and the minimum. Then we have the second part of the table. Okay, yes, all values are fully visible, aligned to the center. Now the ones without any average score are placed below. Okay, and this is good enough. Once you submit this, the graders always, they will know how to put the papers together so that they can easily mark it. Remember, it was emphasized there that it can be easily read. Try and make it bold. Don't mind how many sheets you will be printing with. Just ensure that the details can easily be read. And there you come to the end of that section of this paper. That's the spreadsheet section of this paper. If you like what you have watched, once again, I will appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel. And also hit the like button and then the notification bell so that when I release the next video, you can quickly be notified and you'll be able to go through it as you prepare for your examinations, or you use this, you apply it even in your everyday use of the spreadsheet application program. That I'll stop for today. Until I meet you again in another video, remember, learn to always practice. The more you use it, the better you get at using it. And I wish you all the best for those of you who have exams to write, and those who would apply it, wish you all the best. Till I see you again, stay safe. Bye.